Joe presents TKO, together with 32 Red.
Welcome to round 7 of TKO here on Joe Together with 32 Red. We're a podcast and a YouTube show, and we'll be with you every Thursday. This week, we've come up to Bolton to meet a man whose story epitomises the ups and downs in the sport of boxing. He's a Mancunian, a former world champion, and in just 3 weeks' time, he takes on the biggest challenge of his professional career against the 135-pound king, Vasyl Lomachenko. It is, of course, Anthony Million Dollar Crolla. So Gallagher's gym in Bolton, nice and quiet now, but when we came in earlier, it was absolutely buzzing. Natasha Jonas, Frankie Gavin, all four of the Smith brothers. It's one of the busiest gyms in the country.
Yeah, it's gotta be, and it's full of quality fighters too, so we're just waiting on the Mr. Nice Guy of boxing to come out from the shower, and we'll get chatting to him.
Good of him to meet us this close to the fight, 3 weeks out.
Yeah, real access. You know, he's about to fight Vasyl Lomachenko. Some may say the pound for pound #1 on the planet. This is unrivaled access.
So Lomachenko was like 395 and 1 or something as an amateur. Obviously lost his first or second pro fight, I think it was. But he's kind of now on most people's kind of pound for pound list, top 3 certainly.
Yeah.
Anything that you think kind of in terms of weaknesses in his game you can see?
Well, we've seen Salido rough him up, and he was a really green professional. He's still a pretty green professional when you think about it, but pound for pound, definitely top 3, potentially #1. It's going to be difficult, but to train for someone like this because he's such a unique style. And when I say that, like, there's never been another fighter ever that's lived that has a style like Lomachenko. That's how unique he is. So how do you train for that? You just have to be mentally focused, physically fit, and I suppose see what happens on the night.
Well, Mr. Crolla's in the shower, so we'll wait for him to come out and then we'll have a chat with him and find out what the game plan is and how much we can squeeze out of him. So we're in the gym at Gloves Community Centre here in Bolton. Very pleased to say Anthony Crolla joins us 3 weeks before the big fight. Thank you very much for taking the time.
No, don't be daft. Thanks for coming down.
I must say, right, he's looking very well for 3 weeks out. Sometimes fighters that are in the depth of camp can look a little bit ragged, you know, that close to a fight, but you look very, very healthy.
No, thanks. I feel good. Weight's all good. And listen, it's the hard part. Carl will tell you, this is the hard part, the real sort of business part when, you know, you're bringing weight down, the hard grafts in, and you do feel like I get home, and honestly, I've got a little lad who's 5 and he just wants to play football. I feel bad dad sometimes, but I'm like, oh, just and I have to, you know, you do your bit there, but I just want to get home and I just want to sort of be in bed.
Yeah, it's looking good. I've seen you with a top off for like 3 weeks out. I'm very lucky if I ever get any sort of veins anywhere in my midsection. You fucking veins.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
all over the place here.
My
3
body
weeks
fat's
out.
body fat's low, and it's one of them. I'm eating well, drinking well, and but it's one of them. It's always hard. The last next few weeks will be tough, but I would say I believe I train hard, and I feel in great shape, and I've had notice for the fight, and I'm fighting one of the best fighters on the planet, so it shouldn't be any different, should it?
We'll come on to the fight a little bit later on, because obviously it's occurred because of the injury to Richard Comrie.
Yes.
But you sort of thought that might happen, didn't you? You had a feeling it might happen.
Yeah, I did, because I thought it was a quick turnaround, so it would have been like a 7 or 8 week turnaround. It was, because I've had 7 weeks notice, but it was an 8 week turnaround, and I just thought, you know, Richard Comrie, after the fight, I was watching, and his hand was wrapped up. Straight away, I thought, oh, hold on. And then I heard he was going for a scan, and I thought, nah, this is going to be touch and go. And I believe that, you know, Richard Comrie's, he deserves to sort of enjoy that belt, take it back home. And, you know, he's a proud Ghanaian, and the welcome that he's had, I've saw bits of it, and it's nice to see, and I think he deserves that. Whereas if the hand was a bit iffy, it would have had to sort of get straight back into camp, not be able to train proper. So it's all worked out okay.
You two are in a similar position now, in that you're guys that we think of as young men in the game still, because you both got the youthful looks, but actually you're both pretty fucking old, in truth. twilight of the
maybe.
careers. And in the last 9 months, we lost David A, Tony Bellew, Groves, De Gale, Anthony Agogo, week or so ago. What's it like being at this stage of your careers?
It's difficult. You know, we're not getting any younger. I think you have to kind of, as you get a bit older, you change your approach to training. Someone like Bernard Hopkins, prime example, and how he trains. I think you have to change how you live outside as well, and become more of a professional. The things you used to do as a kid, you know, 22, you don't get away with these days. But I think I'm probably in the same boat as Anthony. You know, I've got about a year, you know, 2 years very maximum left.
Congrats on the deal, by the way.
Yeah, thanks very much. But I want to be involved in big fights, and he's just pulled the biggest fight you could have got. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I think like you say that we're very similar, and I think, you know, in similar positions, and I think we're probably similar in the way that, you know, we don't spend as much time with our families as what we'd like to. Both got young families, and I think we both know the dangers of boxing. I don't know about Carl, but I say it quite a lot. Like, I see mates of mine who grew up with boxing, and I see how they've stayed in boxing too long. And I say it all the time, boxing don't love no one. Boxing loves no one. And boxing can take more from you, or it will take more from you if you let it. Like, I see mates of mine who professionals stayed there a bit too long, and they've got nothing to show for it. They've not even got like a house to show for it. And, you know, they're slurring the words. You know, there's the phrase puncher. It's not the nicest thing, but a little bit punchy. And I think, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to be like. I mean, you might be listening to this thinking you sound like that now, but
honestly not. No, honestly not.
But and that's one of them where you don't want to stay in too long. But I love this sport. I love this sport. Boxing's a huge part of my life. When I'm not training myself, I mean, so my old amateur club, and I help coach out there. I love sort of training with the kids, and I see the improvement. But as much as I love boxing, listen, boxing loves no one back.
I think that's the importance of having a good, strong team around you as well, and not people that are you know, who you may be getting some big paydays and they're earning out of it.
Yeah.
And they're happy to push it back in. It's important to have a good, strong setup, because it's a very, very short career. You don't want to be one of these guys in 20 years' time forgetting your own name, and it happens, and that's the dangers of the sport.
No, like you say, I've seen it sometimes, and Carl mentioned then, it is such a short career. And, you know, you look back now and you think, I bet you do things now sort of out of training, and I was just like a skinny greyhound. I was always ripped, weight didn't fluctuate too much, but I know now, if, you know, I have a family all day, enjoy myself, or a few drinks with the lads and that, the weight comes on a lot quicker now. So you've got to look after yourself a lot more, and it's mad when you think back. I remember, Carl, it's mad. I remember when you boxed in Huddersfield. You boxed in Huddersfield Leisure Centre, and it's mad. It only seems a few years back, and I bet that's not far off 10 years now.
2010 probably.
Yeah, so 9 years, and it's like, you know, it just goes so quick.
Yeah. You turned over what, 3 years? Within 3 years of each other, you were 06 and you were 09.
Yeah.
And you started as an amateur, I think 98. You were about, what, 10 years old, I think, when you first laced them up?
Yes, true, yeah.
So really, 2 decades in the game.
Getting punched in the head for a long time. It's, but I do, and I love it, and I believe that I'm still making improvements. But you've just got to, like say, you've just got to monitor everything. And Carl mentioned it then, I think you've got to make adjustments. You've got to be a lot smarter when you're older, right? You can't be so crash, bang, wallop. And it's mad that, do you know what, that night, I always remember it, you boxed this lad, and I thought, and it was one of like the worst mismatches I've ever seen.
It was embarrassing, I remember.
Do you know what I remember, Carl? No word of a lie, I remember it. I remember Andy Morris and Gary Sykes fought that night. I think it was that night. And I remember I was sat next to your mum. I didn't know it was your mum.
Yeah.
And I was sat there, I was talking to someone, and your mum was there. She was just quiet, and I just said, I said, he's class him. I said, but that fight, that is one of the most disgusting fights I've ever seen.
Who matched that?
And she went, but I said, he's class him. She went, that's my son. And I just went, thank fuck I didn't say out to her. Do you know what I mean?
I remember, the fight was made at 8:12. I was a
come in light, didn't he?
So he didn't arrive at the normal time for the weigh-in. He arrived way later on.
How long ago is this, by the way?
2010.
Right.
So 8:12, it was made £2 above super bantamweight.
Yeah.
And I weighed in at 8:12, starving all day to make the weight.
Yeah.
and he comes in like at 6 o'clock that evening. I think he was about 8'2".
Oh, mate, it was bad. Mate, I remember it. Like, you said, they want boxing shot. And I watched it, and I remember just watching it a bit like that, do you know what I mean?
But what do? I'm not going to say, I'm not fighting this guy, you know what I mean? It's a few quid in my pocket, but it shouldn't have happened. That fight should not have happened.
It's mad that, and I remember that thinking. I remember, like you say, your ma was sat next to me. That's fucking 9 years ago, isn't it?
I remember calling this guy. I still laugh about it. He was like the Hungarian Mr. Bean. That's what he was like. That's how I described him.
Yeah.
Looked like him and everything.
Yeah, he was.
Is it on tape?
No, I've deleted it.
I bet Sky have fingered it.
All evidence is gone.
Ofcom might have fingered it.
Yeah.
But it's mad that. I just thought of it then, you know, when you were saying that, and I thought, shit, I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, you went to a lot of boxing, didn't you, as a kid growing up?
Yeah.
And I know you went to the Manchester Arena long before you fought there as a kid. You have good memories of going to watch fights.
Oh, mate, some of the best memories, you know, as a childhood. And I remember I'd, either like for birthday or Christmas, I'd either get bought, so, you know, or I'd save some money I got just to buy a ticket. Do you know, there, some of the lads. But yeah, way back before the Ricky Hatton days, I remember going for Naz and Naz Parlingle.
Oh, yeah.
And Tommy Hearns was on that bill. And do you know, just some of those bills and stuff like that. Even
Tommy Hearns was on that bill?
Do you know what? Honestly, right, I was saying this not long back to someone. So I boxed, when I boxed last time after I beat Al Jordan last fight, I met Tommy Hearns in the back.
Yes, I walked in the same room.
Yes.
And there's this little old man sitting in the corner, and I went, whoa. He was just sat, he's sort of very, very old and very tired these days, yeah.
And I met him after, I said, oh, Tommy, I said, I actually watched you box here against Nate Miller, and he says, wow, that was some years ago. I said, yeah. I mean, I didn't tell him the next, but I remember though, he was on after the main event, and I must have only been 12 or something like that, but I was knackered, and I remember my dad's mate took me to the fight, and he says, and I know you're tired, he went, but you'll never forgive me if I let you walk out on Tommy Hearns. And to be honest, I was just like, no, I don't want to, but in my head I was thinking.
Why, was it not a great fight as well?
No, it was a shadow of him further. So I think he got someone called Nate Miller who did, and just sort of controlled it behind the jab, and it was boring. And, do you know what I mean? But I just always remember him saying, you'll never forgive me when you're older if you walk out on Tommy Hearns.
I had a story like that. I seen Sergio Martinez in the King's Hall against Richard
Williams.
Richard Williams, aye.
Did they box twice then?
Boxed twice, that's right.
Yeah.
But I remember going, like, no one knew who he was at the time, but now you look back and like, I seen Sergio Martinez when I was a kid.
Just thought he was an import at the time, didn't you?
I think that's what they thought as well.
Do you know what? I'm sure he boxed him at the arena as well. I'm sure he did, because I've seen, do you know, funny enough, it's mad that I followed him on Twitter yesterday, Richard Williams. You just said that, and I used to love that. It was a great era of like middleweights when it British. Like, you had Williams, Steve Roberts, Tapakalu, Wayne Alexander, Andy Farnell. There's just so many.
Yeah.
Do you know? And he was one of my favourites to watch. And I remember that he got Martinez, and you just thought, oh, just an import.
Who's this guy then? Yeah.
Wow, yeah, he got the short. So they boxed again at the King's Hall, did they?
The King's Hall was the second fight, so I think they thought the first fight was going to be, you know, Richard Williams has got it wrong here. We'll get him again in the rematch, and then I think it was worse the second.
No,
Wow.
I think it was. But Martinez, like you say, you saw it. Some fighter then.
Yeah.
Mad.
It's funny, we have this thing as a British public, sometimes we don't give credence to fighters until they beat a good Brit.
Yeah.
And we've seen 3 guys come unstuck in the last 6 months, Cheeseman, Lewis Ritson, Sam Eggington as well.
Yeah.
You obviously came unstuck a couple of times early in your career against even lower level opposition than that, kind of out of the blue. Tell us about that first night.
Yeah, first fight, I lost to Yusuf Alameda, who's, you know, he's a journeyman. At the time, he was going for a bit of a good patch, but I was this prospect, my first fight on live television. Yeah. And at the time, mate, Yusuf was a part-time ice cream man. So it don't look the best, you know, when you look back on it, but that's something I'd never ever changed. Really, shouldn't have got in the ring that night. I was a bit, you know, overtrained, so through my own fault, just under the weather, but I thought, oh no, I'll be all right, and I thought I was living off the first time on ITV form, letting everyone know. And yeah, just a disaster, and but with it then, I saw so many things, like, do you know, early on I learned like who was there for me, you know, this bubble had burst around me. I don't like a huge bubble, but I was the prospect, and yeah, it was brought back down to I learnt sort of the hard way. Like at the time, it felt like the worst thing ever. I'd been beat, not being disrespectful by a part-time boxer, a journeyman, and yeah. But whenever I see Youssef now, I always chat to him and shake hands, and I did always anyway. But it was a blessing in disguise.
I'm not saying this just because you're here, because I think I've mentioned it on another podcast. So, I can't remember who we were speaking to, but I was talking about you against losing that fight against Al Hamidi, and like there's so many other kids would have just packed it in and said, I'm done there. So like you've come back and you've won a world title.
Yeah.
You had another loss to Gary Sykes.
Lost to me again in prize fighter. Lost to Derra. At a British title. I've had a few losses.
That's a big inspirational story. Like if there's kids losing a fight when they're not expected to lose,
and
you can look at that, you look at your career and take something from that, I think.
Yeah, because you need to become like a standard bearer for the O not being the be all and end all in boxing, don't you, really?
No, yeah, it just shows with that, and I've said it many a time, like there was one fight where I had a job ready for me, but I lost that. I had a job waiting for me Monday morning, and I don't think I would have quit boxing, but it would have made hard work, and even like the Gavin Rees fight, I remember thinking, if I win this, then I'll get a contract of Matchroom at the time it was. My missus was pregnant, heavily pregnant with my first wife, and that sort of got us deposit for the deposit for the house. But if not, then I would have had to, I'm pretty certain I would have had to work as well as box to sort of, you know, to provide for the family. So it just shows you the fine lines, but I could have easily walked away. There was times when, like, I'm not crying poverty whatsoever, but you know, I was living in my mum and dad's in bunk beds, you know, my little brother, and flying around in my little red Corsa, and just, you know, basically any money I got was money to go and train, like fill my tank up, go and train, and it's like that's for me. I never stopped. I genuinely never stopped believing, even after that Youssef defeat, and even after the Gary Sykes defeat, I never stopped believing that I could get to the top. You know, you need a little bit of luck, like everything in life. But yeah, no, I never let that sort of discourage me.
I guess you made that change after the first Gary Sykes defeat, promotionally and training-wise, didn't you? Yeah. Around that sort of time, because you were on Hatton's shows, weren't you? And he'd just come back off.
To Hatton's, yeah.
Right, yeah, because he boxed Mayweather 07 and Pacquiao 09, I think.
Yes.
Or something like that. So around that time, he'd obviously hit the heights of his career, and he was someone I guess you must have looked up to. And did seeing him go and do that in the States make the potential of that success a bit more tangible for you?
Every Manchester lad, like every Manchester boxer, so many British boxers as well, you know, idolise Ricky. And I remember speaking to Ricky at amateur shows, and I was probably this annoying little kid, you know, whenever he was there, and I'd ask him questions. And, you know, when I was like a sort of a young schoolboy, but I was watching him. I remember first time I watched Ricky was at Oldham Leisure Centre for his first title fight, Central Area title fight. And I'd followed him ever since then, really. So to sort of see him go from there to reach the heights that he did, yeah, he was massively inspired by it, massively. I think any Manchester lad would say the same.
Yeah. And then 2 years later, you ended up actually on Mayweather's undercard out in the States. And you nearly, because obviously we were in Khan's gym, and of course when he was on the rebuild from Prescott, he fought Marc Antonio Barrera. You nearly fought Eric Morales, didn't you?
Yeah, a random one. I remember the call come through, and you know, there's something going around, and the call come through, and he said, at first thought it was a joke. He says, oh, you know, they want you to fight Morales out in Vegas. I was like, oh, dead right. And then that's like dead. And then I just didn't think it. Went, no, really. And I was like,
oh, the actual Eric Morales,
Like, really? What, like, like, the Mexican who's had the great... I've watched him for years, so I was like, yeah, you know, I was mad for the opportunity. And I remember sort of probably a month before something that fell through, but with respect to going by, they kept me on the card.
Yeah.
And, but I boxed there, and that was a bit of, do you know what? I'd say a nightmare trip, but it wasn't, because it made me sort of learn so much again. I mean, I won the fight. They had it close. It weren't as close, but they had it. But I won on points, and I boxed a guy called Fernando Montiel, not the Superfly.
The Selby, Selby, yeah.
It was another guy, and his record, I can't remember the record, but it was, might have been something like 1-7, lost 4 or something like that. I think I was British champion at the time. So you expect to win and win well. And anyway, I got over there, and Nacho Bernstein was in his corner, and I thought, right, it's a bit harder. And Joe didn't come over with me because Joe had 3 of the Smith brothers on that night. So, that was right, that was more understandable. So, Mike Marsden, who was training at the time, but he wasn't coming out till the night before. So I was going out at the time with a guy who was doing a bit of conditioning with me and sort of to look after me. And then at the airport, he had troubles at home, a problem that he couldn't come. So I was out in Vegas on my own, all fight week. And it's just mad. I remember thinking now, looked after myself, I was going in the gym on my own, but it's like I lost a little boy. I was walking up and down the strip. And like, when I think now, I was probably walking a daft amount each day. And on the fight night, my legs was just heavy. And obviously, he was a lot better than what it was. I remember watching a 24/7, a bit later on, just on repeat. And it was Mayweather Marquez. And when you're watching it and you watch the gym, and then I thought, I know him there. And then he come up and I thought, pause it. And that was him, that was that Montiel. So he was in the gym with your Marquez's and stuff. So
right.
He was so much better.
It was Ortiz, wasn't it? Mayweather
yes,
Ortiz.
Mayweather Ortiz, but it was some experience.
See guys like that, you get these sort of guys in the States who haven't got the most flattering records, but you build them up over here to win a British title. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Mate, without a doubt.
the gyms are full of them. Quality fighters all over the place.
Yeah. Without a doubt. I remember on Cotto Margarito too. There was I think he was some relation to Margarito, Mexican lad. They had big hopes for him. And anyway, he won on points, but he was giving her a tough time off this American journeyman, and he was slick. And I remember after it, it just shows you it's brutal. I thought he'd beat so many prospects him, and if he was looked after, if he was over here, you'd fancy him to go and win a British title, which is a big thing. And was waiting after I was half talking to him in the entrance, and then security come over. He says, where's your ticket? Because you need a ticket over there a lot of the times to go sit down. He'd just been in this fight with this young prospect, giving him a hell of a fight. Didn't have a ticket, and I had to go out the exit. He'd just boxed, and wow, this is fucking brutal.
Well, they wouldn't let him watch the rest of the...
No, wouldn't let him watch the rest of the show. He had to come home. And I'm like, wow. But I think that was, I remember that night when I boxed on the undercard, I was looking for the gimme tickets, and went back to my room, and then they had to come back through the entrance, and I was just sat in the seats everyone else.
Because Christine had problems getting into one of your fights, wasn't it?
That was just a job's worth security guy. Even me, I remember walking, so we get dropped off in the car, so this is against Josh Warrington. I got dropped off by the driver at the back door of the entrance for the fighters, and I walked in a little caged area in the MMA.
Yeah, I know what you mean, I know it well.
And I had no pass. The guy said, have you got your passes? And I went, no, I don't have one. Do I need one? Well, everyone's meant to have a pass. I said, see that programme that you're reading? See, that's me on it. Can you let me in? He went, yeah, I know it's you, but everyone needs a pass. I ended up getting in, but what's that about?
Yeah.
What's that about? But that's what you're talking about, the guy who fought, not being allowed to watch, the cutthroat part of this business. You're used and abused, and they just send you on.
I remember another time in the Wildcat, there was this lad there, and I think he was something like 1-2, lost 5, and he was giving everyone all sorts. He was giving them fits, in there. And then I thought, there was a fellow prospects 5-0, 6-0, 7-0, and he was handling them pretty comfortably. And then when we heard his record, I was like, wow. And he went, he said, I've got no promoter or all that. He says, a lot of my jobs are just sort of last minute, and the away fighter, he says, I think that my record should be a lot better than it is, and you just think people don't see that, do they?
Oh, that's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about I think you were both good amateurs, but you were never kind of given particularly huge number of opportunities internationally because of people kind of ahead of you in squads. I think you had David Oliver Joyce by and large, Frankie Gavin, who's in here today, and I think you've been doing some sparring with.
Yeah, with Frankie. Yeah, well, and that's probably pretty similar. With Frankie, I remember winning sort of the ABAs, and there was talk of box offs. It never happened, but Frankie, for me, is one of the very best, if not, the best amateur. I know he didn't go to the Olympics, but he won the Worlds, and the Worlds are harder to win than the Olympics.
He beat that ginger Russian,
Unbelievable, unbelievable. Frankie, he beat him, and no one got, and he beat him well, didn't he? He beat him well, and Frankie was unbelievable. And I remember thinking at the time, he was struggling, with the weight, and I just thought, hello, Don, but, and I totally understand, he'd gone to the Olympics, he'd gone to the Commonwealths, won well out there, and Frankie was winning everything he went in, but then more and more, there was tournaments that, he was only doing the big tournaments or, whatever like that. And and like I said, you could never put me ahead of him because of what he'd done, but I felt like I was just there as a bit of a sparring partner, and at the time, I didn't like the squads. I didn't think I was getting much from the squads. So even though I probably wasn't ready to turn professional, I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna do it, try and get a bit of a head start like that, because, an offer coming at the time, and it was a good offer, and I thought, yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. But yeah, I would have liked that international experience. I boxed for England a handful of times. Do you know what, I don't know if you boxed the same night. Do you ever box Ashley Sexton?
I boxed Ashley Sexton.
Yeah, in the Olympia.
Yeah.
We boxed the same night, yeah.
You boxed John Joe Joyce?
No, I didn't box. I have boxed John Joe at the National Stadium. I boxed a ginger lad, red-headed lad, called Aaron Sadler or something like that.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about, yeah.
When do you first remember coming across each other?
No, so I remember Carl that night, because he was a little tank, and you beat Ashley well, didn't you? And I remember that, but then I always thought because I was always with boxing news reading, I thought, I didn't see too much of the name, and then you turned over early, didn't you?
Turned over,
and that was why.
And it was a similar situation with him and Frankie. I just felt like Davey Oliver was a number one. There was talk of a box-off between me and him.
And it never really materialised.
Yeah. And then I actually beat him in the All-Irelands, and I beat him well, I dropped him and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, when I turned pro, it was kind of like doing the fingers.
Yeah, well, that's it. I have remember that now, there when you're saying it, and but then not hearing about much, because obviously you turn professional, but very much sort of like what Carl said there. I think, you have someone ahead of you, you're not getting the opportunity, you feel that you just sort of, what's the point sort of thing. So it was a new challenge for me.
I guess it's not the be all and end all. I remember seeing Cal Yafai and Andrew Selby boxing off of the London place at your call, and Andrew won the first one. The next day, Yafai missed the weight, and you actually fast forward it now, and Selby's, had ups and downs, and Yafai's been world champ for a couple of years.
That's the importance of being guided, right, and having a good team behind you, I think.
Yeah.
And someone like Frankie Gavin, he's an absolute wasted talent. Andrew Selby, what a fighter. He beat Cal Yafai pretty comfortably.
Yeah.
And Cal Yafai's now world champion. Andrew Selby's he's boxing in Mexico in his next fight.
I think he's got an eliminator now, actually.
And I have no doubt, he can be a world champion, but it just seems very strange, doesn't it? And
there's a lot of problems. His mum passed away and things like that.
Yeah, God bless, yeah. No, hopefully, he gets to the levels that he should. But you mentioned Frankie then, and Frankie's the most talented lad I've ever trained alongside. It's even now, you see he's not in no fighting shape, but he's so clever, and he's got one of the best boxing minds I've ever come across. It's unreal, and you just, even with the last fight when he fought that Kerman Langer for the European, for 3 or 4 rounds, Frankie just stood him on his head, but you just got the feeling at some point
fighter, that lad as well.
Very, very strong inner, and but that's sort of way it works. I'm not sure what Frankie's going to do. If he's going to box again. I know he's got his own amateur club now, and within a year he's got 20-odd fighters, some boxing internationally, so it looks like he's going to be a great coach as well.
Yeah.
But that's where the technique work we're doing, and I speak to him and stuff, and Joe speaks to him, tries to pick his brains. I'm going off subjects a little bit here, but when you get trolls on social media, you're fighting Lomachenko and you're using a fat Frankie Gavin, but no, you see a fat Frankie Gavin, you see an overweight Frankie Gavin, but we're seeing one of the best, one of the best amateurs we've ever produced in Britain, and someone who's got an unbelievable boxing brain. That's
the thing. Trolls look at that and they say them things. I'm looking at that going, Jazza Dickens and Frankie Gavin. That's quality sparring for Lomachenko. You can't replicate Lomachenko, but they're as good in Britain as you're going to get.
Yeah, I was going to get, and just little bits the way sort of Jazza spins off, replicates that, because You can't, like you just nailed it. There's not one lad we can get sort of in Britain or around the world who does everything to a T that Lomachenko does. So, yeah.
Joe Gallagher is, without a doubt, one of the busiest men in boxing. And I can remember coming up here for the Linares rematch, and he showed me the data that you had, you know, the kind of breakdowns.
He's a madman.
I mean, the big data, the big data is not used that widely in boxing, but when it is used, it can be really, really helpful in analysing a fighter and breaking down what they do and spotting patterns that even the best the best trainers might not be able to spot. I'm guessing this is about as tough a task as you're ever going to get in boxing, analysing a fighter as complicated as Lomachenko. Yeah,
without a doubt, because he's so hard to read. He's so hard to sort of, you know, patterns that he does. So it makes Joe's job a lot tougher. I think any fighter, any opponent, you're always second guessing what they're going to do. But you know, you get a rough idea. Whereas with Lomachenko, you know, you're second guessing something, and he might come with something totally different, if you know what I mean.
You have to be so switched on from start, like have no lapses in concentration at all. Like he's unreal, like complete unique fighter. There's never been a style like him before.
Yeah, that's what I say when, you know, if you describe him in one word, that is unique.
I think
Carl's nailed it there.
One of his unique selling points is that he's taken all the best bits of what he was as an amateur and essentially stretched it out over a 12-round performance. And you don't see that very often because people want to really drum the movement out of you as an amateur to professional. You get taught as an amateur to fight at one distance.
Yeah, and then the feet. Yeah. He's kept his feet.
He's kept it, and he's went, and Usyk's done it as well. All these Russians are now coming in, and they're now boxing the same way as they did winning Olympic medals, but just doing it for a longer period of time. And that's a problem. Like, I think a lot of people turn over from the amateurs and they're like, right, you're going to have to stand and hold your feet. Now, it's bullshit.
Yeah.
If you're a top Olympian winning medals by using your feet, you're going to be doing it. You can do it. If you can do it for 12 rounds, you're going to win world titles.
Without a doubt. And I think, like you say, you try and change him, but that's probably going back to Frankie a little bit, whether he stopped using his feet as much. Unbelievable feet. But they've sort of shown that now you can do it. Like, they're the two people, Lomachenko, Usyk. You've not got to slow your feet down completely. You might have to make some adjustments over 3-minute rounds, but you've not got to, like, slow your feet down, abandon what you had so much success with. Why throw it away that you see people do?
Yeah. We'll come on to Lomachenko properly in just a few moments' time, but before we get there, I want to take you chronologically through to the kind of year leading up to you becoming world champion, because it very, very nearly didn't happen for you because of one fateful night in 2015, was it?
December 2014 it was,
right. So you were driving home from training, and just tell us, for anybody that has been living under a rock, what happened to you that night?
No, so that night, I'm driving home from training for my first world title fight around a month later, in January, and pulled up outside my house. Next door neighbour's alarm's going off, and straight away you hear an alarm going off, and you think, you know, when's this going to stop? So I rang the neighbour and says, "Oh, your alarm's going off, mate." He says, "Oh, the missus has just nipped out now, I'll let her know." And I joked about it, so that I was checking no one's in the house, but put my gym gear and just walked through the garden. It was still going off, and looked over the garden fence, and you know, you've got the torch on your phone, you're looking, and I'm like, is that window smashed? And you know, a shadow, and then next thing, someone pops the red out. You know, you shout all sorts. I took chase.
He thought about asking for an autograph.
Yeah. Took chase, and then as I got around the corner, there was two of them. So I just thought, Joe would just give me the night off running because it was ahead of schedule. I thought, there's no way these are getting away from me. So I'm talking to them, and they must have thought this guy's a madman. I said, listen, I'm going to catch you, and I'm catching you now. I said, you're not going to get away from me, so you might as well stop. And they're trying, and I'm just closing distance. And anyway, they've turned down the side of an house of garden, and I've like cornered them in, sort of, you know, I'd not touched them at all like that, but I'd cornered them in. And, you know, I look at them, there's two of them, and I think, well, I can't get one under each. You know, I'm not the biggest guy, but I can't. So I just thought, you know what, you can go, you're coming with me. And you're going to have to, you know what I mean, you're going to have to sort of squeal on your mate or whatever. And as I'd let him go, I don't know if that said something like, what if he's took or whatever, and And then on the blind side, then a concrete slab come down, hit me on the head. I remember going down on one knee. I remember thinking, oh my God. And I knew straight away, at the time I didn't know it was a slab, I thought, he just put a slab or a brick over my head or something. I thought, but I wasn't knocked out or anything like that. And like, I just felt, and I jumped up because I saw him climbing the fence, the other one. I jumped up to try and grab him, but he was already halfway over, so he's gone, and I was raging, but I couldn't put any weight on my ankle. And I was like, oh, wow. I was, raging that they've got away. And I thought, I had no idea anyway. I'm walking, well, not walking, I'm hopping back home. Couldn't put any weight on my ankle. I thought, I've twisted my ankle or something the way I've gone over it. My missus, one of the neighbours, seen me walking the street, going, what's happened? I said, they've just put something over my head. I don't know what though. Because obviously the blood's pouring. And then, yeah, going to my house. There's a bit of carrying at the time, a little boy, he was only, was he 14? So yeah, he was one. He was one, I'm covered in blood, but I'm just trying to have the joke with him so he don't understand, lucky enough at that point. And then the ambulance was taking a bit of time to come. Next door neighbour have come and lucky enough, her mum was an ambulance and she said, you need to get to hospital, the bleeding won't stop in. And at this time, I'm just talking rubbish. One of my mates had actually come round to pick tickets up for the fight. And I'm saying, do you know what? I said, I just won't be able to run this week. And the court, and I'm going, yeah, but look at the cut, the head guard covers that, but it's not ideal. But what I'll do is I'll swim this week. And I'm planning training around my head. And at the time,
It's a bit of denial because of the stakes.
Yeah, I was talking like a madman. I was like, yeah, I won't run for this. It's not ideal. And then you see people going, look at your head. And I'm going, oh, it'll be right. But really, none of them had the heart to tell me that, listen, you're not fighting. But, so anyway, the ambulance was taking Asia. My uncle who lived around the corner, he got us to hospital. And, took me to the, emergency A&E and one of the people was like, what's going on? I was telling him, and I said, we'll get you in the back now, clean you up. Head was cut wide open, and I couldn't walk or like that. And they said anyway, they were saying, you fighting soon? I went, yeah, I'm fighting next month. I said, I'll be sound and all that. And the next thing, I'm having to have a scan, this and that. And I thought, bloody hell, this is a bit of carry on. And then I remember the doctor calling us into the, coming in and seeing, he says, you're a boxer, aren't you? And I said, yeah, I said, I'm boxing next month and all that. And he just said, listen, that won't be happening. And he just told me I had a fractured skull. He said, your ankle's broken a few places. So I was just, I was heartbroken, do you know what I mean? I remember breaking my heart after it. My uncle, he went home, and then as soon as he went home, I thought, I must not want to cry in front of him. And then, you break your heart, don't you? And yeah, that was it, really. That was it, bit of bad luck.
You never found out who it was?
Never found out who it was. A lot of people say that, and at the time, and it's not to sound tough.
We'll be living off that, the wee rats,
but what I mean? But people wanted to kill him. People wanted to kill him, and it's like, so and I know I never will find out. And now, it without sounding, it does me a favour not knowing, because if I found out now, if you're robbing houses, I just don't want to stop robbing houses. If you're robbing houses, you're pretty desperate, and I think, what do I do if I find out now? Do I give two fingers a good hiding? What joy am I getting out of it? So they have to live with it now, that they can never sort of slip up. And
would you recognise them? Can you remember what they look like?
No, there was one of them, not the one who put a slab over my head. No, he had the hood up, so I won't know. Even the one now who was so in person, and it's one of them, won't be as mad as him because he didn't put a slab over my head. But I think so, and there was sort of ID praise what they had to say, and I didn't know. And there was a lad, rumour going round, and I remember his brother, he went, I'll bring him to the house now, it's not him. And I says, and I knew it wasn't him anyway, do you know what I mean? Because, people talk and that, he says, it's not him, I'll bring him round to the house, you can. And even in, I don't know if I meant to say this, but even in the police thing, they had this thing, and I knew it wasn't him, do you know what I mean? But yeah, it was just a bit of bad luck. Bad luck.
Talk about a bit of bad luck. That's unbelievable.
What's it? You never run either. You hear an alarm, everyone does the a fire alarm
When's
goes
it
off.
gonna go off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a drill next door.
Yeah,
walk
totally.
So, of course, the eventual night came in Manchester with Darlis Perez. I think there isn't a soul that knows what they're watching that doesn't know that you won that fight.
Yeah.
You got essentially robbed on the decision. It was a draw. Eddie immediately lobbied for the rematch for you, and 16 weeks later, you're back in exactly the same situation. Was that just the kind of relief that it happened and you got your chance at redemption after what had happened the first time?
Yeah, do you know what? I knew after the first fight, it's mad, like, I wasn't even that down after the first fight because I was just happy to be boxing again. And then when I thought about it, and then I went from being known as a fighter who got it over the head with a concrete slab to a fighter that had been robbed of a world title. I just thought, I can't have this. I've got to change this. So, and I knew, sort of feeling sorry for myself, wasn't going to do it. So I went about just making changes to make sure I was better than ever, because I knew there was a good chance I was going to get the rematch because of the controversy around the first one. So, yeah, from that first fight, it was like, it's great to be boxing again. But then when as soon as I got the rematch confirmed, I thought, I've got a second chance here, and I knew I had to take it.
Like a third chance, really, as well.
Third chance, yeah. Third chance, because that's what I say, when I had all the injuries, I was given a second chance. So obviously it's almost like a third chance. And that night, I just thought there was no way I was going to lose that fight. And I always remember Eddie Hearn coming in the back, and he told me after, he went, I was fuming coming in the back. He said, because you just look, you were so relaxed. I thought he's going to let this moment pass him by. He said, but I just didn't believe for 1 minute I was going to lose that fight. And it panned out a little bit different than the first fight, but I just thought, no, this is my night to become world champion.
Is that the one, there's a photograph Carl Priestley took, I think?
Yeah, no, that was defending it.
Oh, was it? Okay.
That was defending it.
Do you know the photograph I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
I think it's the best photograph in boxing history.
Yeah,
it's unreal. I was looking at it the other day.
Yeah.
And it was weird, because everyone's, like, you can see the crowd and the reactions in the crowd's face. You can see Joe Gallagher's kind of
jumping up,
But
2 foot in me.
there's one man sitting down in the crowd. Have you seen this?
Yeah. The one man who sat down. Is it one of the officials? Or?
No. There's someone just sitting in their seat in the crowd.
I'm gonna have to look.
What? Just looking like?
I'll tell you who it is now. Kid Galahad.
No,
he's
you're
sitting
joking.
there, straight face.
He's happy for me.
Everyone's going.
Do you know what? I'm gonna have to look at that again.
Barry.
Why is he not celebrating like everyone else?
Yeah, everyone was going mad.
We know why.
I didn't know if you meant it. I'll have to look at that.
Have a look.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Have a look.
I'll check it out.
Come on, Josh Warrington.
Yeah, it's loyal. Is it Josh?
I guess for you, it was a beautiful shot you landed, a left that Ricky Hatton would have been proud of, and that's the best moment of your career. And from from being a kid, watching in the stands in the same venue, to winning it in front of all of your fans. And the same with you in Belfast with Kiko. I mean, that is the dream moment that every fighter just wants, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you said there, it's in your own time, the amount of times you've gone to shows in Belfast, and that arena, like you said, before Ricky, do you know what I mean? But being there for so many of his big nights, and then sort of to live out that dream yourself, it's the ultimate. It's the ultimate.
Never forget them nights. They're the ones that you'll be talking about in 30 years' time,
Yeah.
When you hear that,
and other people will be talking about that in 30 years' time, and it's like, I know, people go, I was there that night, and you just think,
yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the ring, and I guess you knew you'd won because of the stoppage.
Yeah.
But it's that moment where it's final, when you hit and the new and the hands raised.
What I like about it is, like, you feel like you're making memories for other people. And they talk about like how happy they were, and they just remember it like really well.
Yeah, what a night sort of thing. And
I met a guy, and he was doing security in Argos, English guy, and he says he came over to my fight against Kiko at the Titanic as a boxing fan. And he's still here because he got some woman pregnant.
Wow.
But they're together. They're together.
You
have
create
a baby.
babies and memories.
Wow.
It's a great story, and he told me, but he's living here now, and it's a great
brilliant.
story.
That's amazing.
That's something else.
Wow, isn't that crazy? And of course, defending it against Barroso, even though you were the champion, there must be something about that that's a little bit different, in that you cement yourself as a bona fide world champion. It's not just a one-off.
because, you know, I wanted to defend it, and at the time, it was a pretty big underdog, actually, that night. So...
We've seen how good he was against Kevin Mitchell, haven't we?
Yeah, I remember, honest, my phone was going mad then. And honestly, I never let social media get to us, but I remember that night, you know, just looking, when I was something like going, not a chance Crolla will fight him, not this and that, or he not... And I thought, and I got my back up a little bit, and I remember just thinking, you know what, whether I meant it or not, I said, I won't box him and I'll stop him. And so that was every bit as satisfying as winning the world title. That's when that picture come from, and it was one of them. It was like, because defending your world, going in as a champion, I didn't want to lose it. Certainly not first defence, but it sort of just, you know, it's shown to walk to the ring as a world champion and leave as a world champion. Yeah, that was a very special night for me.
And both of you kind of did a similar thing. You got in with the best in your division at that point twice. Leo Santa Cruz won one, lost one.
Yeah.
Jorge Linares, I mean, very, very close, competitive first fight, a little bit wider the second time.
Yeah.
Do you think that because of the second fight was a little more conclusive for him, people forget how competitive it was?
Yeah, I do a little bit. And it's one of them, like, do you know what? I was talking about this the other day. Someone was talking about it to me. And the first fight, you know, I lost the first fight. There weren't loads in it, but 100%, you know, the right man won. Second fight, I got well beat. But the first fight, loads in it, and then I seen like someone, and this isn't, you know, I like Luke Campbell and stuff, but people go on about the fight with him and Jorge, and I think, well, Jorge won it pretty well, but Luke gave up a good fight, and I think, I wish I got the credit he got.
It was no closer. It was no closer than your first fight.
No way. Yeah, that's what I mean. But everyone remembers the second fight where, do you know, for the first time in my career, I was beat, and I was beat very convincing.
See when like as fights go on, and it happens all the time. Like everyone has. And I love big Tyson Fury. They have him absolutely schooling Klitschko.
Yeah.
If you actually watched that
If you watched
fight,
that fight, it was a competitive fight. You won the fight, but it was tight enough.
Yeah.
But people have it like a 12-round boxing lesson.
Yeah, they didn't lay a glove on.
As time goes on, I think people's minds become a wee bit warped in the belief what they want to believe.
Fans have got very short memories for the stuff they want to have, and very long memories for the stuff they do.
Of course.
But I guess the things you take away from that is Jorge Linares had some success against Lomachenko.
More than some success, yeah.
Yeah, as did Pedraza. And although he is as complete a boxer as you would want if you're teaching a kid, you know, from scratch, since moving to 135, if there have been vulnerabilities, certainly they've been a little bit more exposed than they were at 130. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely. And I think Lomachenko could certainly still make 130.
Yeah.
I think that'd probably be his best weight. And I think, for instance, if the Gervonta Davis fight could be made, he'd go back down to 130 for it, or they'd meet somewhere in the middle, I don't know. But, yeah, and I think that's, you know, I have very few advantages going in there on the night, but I do believe that's one of them. Size, you know, height, reach. And if you use those advantages well, make this night, you know, very difficult for him. More than that, you know, that's one of the things I'm planning on taking in there to shock the world.
Exciting, isn't it?
Who's to say Lomachenko, like we're sitting here beside Anthony, you know you're a huge underdog, and we all do, but who's to say Lomachenko doesn't get a bad cut in the first or second round? Who's to say he doesn't come out with some sort of injury that affects how he
he's had shoulder reconstruction.
Of course, that's a big injury to come back from, but like you said, it's very, you know, sports full of big upsets. And, you know, I'm going in there on Friday the 12th of April to cause another huge upset, and the motivation I get of having, I'm not speaking out of turn here, it'd be one of the biggest upsets in British boxing history.
Yeah.
You know, for me to do it, and I thrive off that.
What happens if you win, and what happens if you lose?
Win, give him a rematch.
In Manchester?
Yeah, it can be anywhere. It's, but no, after the fight, you know, we talked about it earlier. I know I'm in sort of the last part of my career, but I mentioned it earlier about how much I love the sport, and I know I'll miss it badly, but I don't want to stay in it too long. But if not, I'd like to fight in Manchester before the end of the year, and then I'll assess things then. assess things then. I'm 30, I'm 32 now, it's end of the year, I'm 33. I've looked after myself. I'm not one of those who, listen, I love a night out with the lads, but I don't have too many of them. And it's just one of them, you just can't stay in boxing too long. So it's something I'm going to think about. I'll take it fight by fight. After April the 12th, over the next few weeks, then I'll enjoy myself, but I'll have a lot of thinking time, see where we go from there, and assess it fight by fight.
I mean, you know what that period of time's like. You know, you had that in December, didn't you?
Yeah, it's hard. Initially after the fight with Warrington, I was a retired fighter, and after we watched it back on the podcast a few weeks ago, and like in my head, it was a brutal fight. You take the first 3 rounds out of it, it wasn't as brutal as I imagined it. Like I imagined it to be brutality from start to finish. And I was just annoyed with myself more than anything. And I think if you still believe that, like I believe I could change things to flip a result like that on its head. So why should I pack it in because someone on Twitter says you're done? You know what I mean?
Yeah. We saw the crowd that Ricky Hatton took over for Floyd Mayweather.
Yeah.
I guess often British fighters that have big followings that travel tend to be associated with their football club.
Yeah.
And you've been a Red since you were a boy.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ricky was a Blue. But how many people are you expecting?
Do you know what? I don't know. We'll have to work out. But there's gonna be a good firm over there. Do you know what? Honestly, if it would have been Vegas or New York, I believe it would have took a good few thou. I really believe that because it's just, you know what LA is like. LA is a lot more spread out, isn't it? It's just, you know, you stay on. Listen, you go to Vegas, and that's part of the trip for a lot of the lads. Or New York, you know, you're around Times Square, you're around all the bars, the pubs.
That's an appeal in itself,
yes,
Vegas and New York. You know
Whereas
what I mean?
in LA, you've got Hollywood here, you've got downtown where the fight is over here, you've got Santa Monica over here. So I don't know, but there's a good few hundred more, you know, who booked on. So I'll have good support that night.
And they'll sound like plenty more than that.
Yeah, without a doubt. I'll have to work it out actually, but you know, more and more people are still booking on.
Yeah.
So, and that's motivation in itself as well, you know, because they've not had the most notice, so they're having to save up or they've put money up what they had aside, you know, to come and watch us, and that's massive motivation for me as well.
Yeah. One fight that never materialised for you was Terry Flanagan.
Yeah.
There are sort of murmurings that he might be shifting back down to 135.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Did you hear that?
I did hear that. I saw Terry a few weeks ago at the hot yoga place. But as I said, if you got coming up, and he said, I'm just taking over. But I did hear that he might come back down in weight. I know he went up for the Super Series. And that was, we both wanted that fight to happen. Do you know, there was stories on both sides that, like, at first I know it was pretty public. They made an offer saying, we've made him an offer and he's turned it down, but I would have had to give up my world title, and you know, they don't sort of mention that. And then before the Burns fight, we made a very big offer, and I think Terry was happy to take it, but the team wouldn't. So, do you know, that's that. But it's not through me not wanting the fight, and it's not through Terry not wanting the fight. We was both cool for it, both Manchester lads. And I think, you know, we get on and we like each other, but it would have made a lot of sense at the time. If it comes back down to 135, you never know. But at the minute, I don't know.
You can't dwell on that though now, you know what I mean? It is what it is. And
there was politics like involved, and understandably, Terry's promoter, he wanted it on his show, and you know, my promoter wanted it on his show. It was, but yeah, and I don't dwell on it at all.
I suppose with this, I mean, you know, Matchman BT, Frank and Eddie have never been further apart than they are. So I suppose if it was going to happen towards the end of your careers, it would take one of you to kind of go free agent and maybe box on the other show, wouldn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Like I say, I'm not sure what. I saw him the other week, but I don't know whether he's going to come back down, but there is talk of it. And we'll just see how it goes.
It's interesting when a fight gets announced, as you get closer to the fight, different variables influence your thoughts on how it's going to go. I mean, it happened with Mikey and Errol Spence at the weekend.
That baffled me, by the way.
Yeah, really.
I had Earl Spence winning the fight from start to finish, and I'm usually one of these guys that get caught up in the hype.
It was quite strange, the movement on Mikey,
I was talking about that, and so many people was jumping on Mikey, and I remember, honestly, I put the tweet out and I thought, I wouldn't be like surprised. I think Mikey's an unbelievable fighter, but then you mentioned it, and then I started looking at the weigh-in. I know bodies don't win fights, and Mikey never looks body beautiful. But Spence, Spence looked incredible and stuff, at the weigh-in and stuff. And I thought, nah, you know what though? He's not just a bigger guy. Spence is an elite fighter.
Yeah, what a fighter.
And he was an Olympian. When I first seen him, he was here in 2012. I was watching with Joe. And no word of a lie, we picked out 3 fighters. And there was him, Clarissa Shields. At the time, it was like, oh my God. She was like, and we was just like, who is, I remember phoning our mates going, there's a woman at 75, get on her. Where the book is and all this and blah, blah. And then the one was Marcus Brown, who's just come into, really beat Badu Jack last time out, didn't he? But Spence, and I just started thinking, Mikey's going up 2 weights. That's a huge asking. And I think on the night, Spence looked the quicker man, didn't he?
Yeah,
Spence looked the quicker man, and I think, the weight, it wasn't good weight.
It's a lot to adjust to,
it wasn't good weight, and I was watching him, I was thinking, nah, he looked, and he's an unbelievable fighter, Garcia, but there wasn't that explosiveness ever there.
I feel like it looked to me as if he was kind of happy to stay in, what I mean, and not get stopped. But that's why there's weight divisions in this game.
Yeah.
And like we say, every fighter has their limits. For Mikey, it was potentially 147. You can see him doing well at 140. For Lomachenko, you just wonder whether 135 is the division. Maybe he gets found out.
I mentioned 135 is the max he'll go. So I'd be shocked if he goes up. If he went up again, because I don't believe he's a lightweight. Like I said, I think he's a super feather max. Well, super feather, I think, is his weight. And like I said, I'm not just relying on the size thing and the height, the reach at all. We're going in there, we're working on shots that we think are going to cause him trouble. And honestly, I cannot wait for it. It's like, I promise you one thing, like, if I do come up short, it won't be through me being overawed, through lack of trying, it'd be simply just losing to the better man. But I prepared very well for it. Still got a few more weeks of hard graft. And roll on April the 12th.
I'm more excited now about this than I've ever been from speaking to Anthony now.
I think Anthony's he's obviously very up for it, but there's no pressure on you. And that's you can relax going into the fight week and your whole camp, you're training hard and everyone's writing you off, and that kind of alleviates any pressure.
So you have your own expectations, so I've got my own expectations where I put that bit of pressure on myself. But like Carl said, there's zero pressure on me. Do you know what I mean?
And that's probably when you'll get the best out of yourself.
Just go out and perform.
Yeah.
Good man.
Go out there and enjoy it.
Wish you the very, very best of luck.
Thank you.
God, what a story it would be, wouldn't it?
I hope you're a businessman.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you very much.
We're doing one thing before we go. Our 32-second challenge with 32 Red. Have you seen this before?
Never seen it.
So, you need to watch the podcast, mate. Come on.
Sorry, mate.
Subscribe at least.
It's almost like he's been training for a big fight or something.
Mate, now it'd be a bit of a meme. Now I'm on it, I will do. But I have seen you guys getting out and about.
Cheers. Yeah, cheers. No, we have been getting out and about. Actually. It's been really good fun. So this is basically word association. I'm going to reel off a load of words to you, and I want you to just say the first thing that comes into your head, okay?
Right.
And it's only 32 seconds, so it will be over. Although,
so I've got to be pretty quick.
Yeah, although Chris Eubanks lasted about 8 minutes. So.
Yep.
Right, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, away we go. Lomachenko.
Unique.
Training camp.
Hard.
Manchester.
My city.
Joe Gallagher.
Madman.
Perez.
Body shot.
Barroso.
Body shot.
Man United.
My love.
Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Idol.
At the wheel. Liverpool winning the Premier League.
Kill me now.
Most important thing in your life.
My little boy.
Awesome, mate. Bang on the money. 32 seconds, done and dusted.
Happy days.
Anthony Crolla, what an absolute pleasure, and I cannot wish you more luck than I am. So
boys, thanks for coming down with me in that. And thank you very much.
No, thank you for having us. Carl, cheers, mate. We'll be watching you closely. Thank you guys for tuning in at home as well. We'll be back next week. We'll be catching up with Josh Boatsy, light heavyweight sensation from Croydon in South London, after his first tilt out of British title. Will he have the belt with him? We'll find out in 7 days. Thanks for watching. We'll see you very soon.
You've been watching TKO on Joe, together with 32 Red.